Just a quick heads up for this episode. Halfway through our recording, one of the recordings completely mucked up. So, halfway through, you might see a degradation in audio quality. Apologies for that. It is how it is. We have to use the Skype backup recording. I hope you enjoy the episode, nevertheless. Hello, farmers, and welcome to the harvest season. My name is Al.
And I'm Kevin.
And we're here today to talk about farming games.
Actual farming games. I have a history of being here.
I think it's been actual farming games the last few times. Not with you necessarily, but the last few episodes.
I have a history of being here to complain about Animal Crossing mostly. But no,
That's
today,
true.
actual farming. Let's do it.
There will not be much Animal Crossing discussion in this episode.
Nope.
Just a little bit.
Saving that. Yeah, we're waiting for the heads up from Nintendo. They got to match our schedules and drop it for the latest harvest season content.
If only. So, this episode we're going to talk about Sakuna of Rice and Rain, which Kevin has convinced me to play, and we will see how that goes later in the episode. Before that, we're going to talk about the news, and first of all, we're going to talk about what we've been playing. Kevin, what have you been playing?
Okay. I've been playing mostly Pokemon Unite. I think has been the flavor of the past few weeks.
Yeah,
that's a good game. Have you played Unite much?
I haven't recently. I definitely did play it quite a lot the launch week or two after that. And I'll probably jump in again soon. We'll see how life goes, but yeah.
Okay.
Not the last couple of weeks, certainly.
All right, that makes sense. I'd like to talk about it more, and maybe if listeners go to the Patreon and sign up, they can get a bonus podcast where they could perhaps hear some extended thoughts on Pokemon Unite. Okay. So yeah,
Pokemon stuff in general.
Yeah. It's a good month for Pokemon fans. Aside from that, not too much. I still haven't actually beaten Sakuna, our game today, but I did play a little this past week or so to refresh myself. It's still a game I enjoy. But other than that, not too much going on. Been busy with plenty of non-game things. What about you, Al? What you been up to?
I played a bit of Sakuna. I've done quite a bit of Sword and Shield. I've been kind of Pokemon Sword and Shield. I've been for some reason I got back into the shiny hunting groove. So I've got a few shinies this week.
Oh, very nice. I actually did too. It just reminds me. I had to help somebody with Pokemon X on the old 3DS. Blew the dust off of that, and it got me in a mood. I did a quick shiny hunt, like half an hour. It's crazy. Horde hunts, they're great. But yeah, Pokemon. I can see why you got the taste for it. All the news going on.
I go for a couple of months of doing nothing, and then I'll be like, oh, I'll get like 10 shinies in a few weeks, and then I'll be like doing nothing for a few months again. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, no, that's been fun. What else? Picross. I've been playing a bit of Picross recently.
I love that game.
Yeah.
What version or what flavor?
S4 on the Switch. Picross S4.
Okay.
Because I hadn't finished that one yet. So
very nice. I like that. Have you ever played the 3D Picross on the 3DS?
No, I haven't, and I feel like it would kill my brain. I've seen it. I think it looks quite cool, but I'm not sure whether my brain is up to it.
Well, either way, regular 2D Picross is fun. So good stuff.
Yeah, got quite a few to play before I have to look for anything else. What are we up to? 7, I think, on the
Something like that. I don't know. I
Switch.
haven't touched them. They're on my list, but I've been doing other Picross stuff.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's about it. That's what we've been playing. Should we talk about some news?
Yeah, I guess. I guess so. They pay you for that, right?
Story
Big.
of Seasons, Pioneers of Olive Town. We've got 2 new updates. I wondered whether this might happen. Instead of releasing 1.0.7, they just released 1.0.8 outside of Japan just straight away because all that 1.0.8 does is add like a couple of bug fixes, and so I suspect there was no really real localization to that.
Uh-huh.
So I suspected that might happen, especially as one of the bugs in 1.0.8, one of the fixes, is a bug fix with the chat camera, which was only introduced in 1.0.7. So it makes sense that if you've got the update for a feature that's added in an update, you just update the next one. So the chat camera, for people who aren't aware, Pioneers of Olive Town doesn't have portraits for characters when you're talking to them. And people weren't a huge fan of that. They wanted to see more emotions in people's faces. So what they've done instead of adding portraits, they don't want to do that, which is fair enough. I get wanting to stick with how you're doing things. If you're in a conversation with someone, the camera will zoom in on their face, and their face is more expressive now, so it actually shows emotions. You can turn that off in the settings if you don't like it, but I feel like it's kind of. I've not tried it out yet. I have the update installed on my Switch, and I do need to go into that soon because of the next thing I'm about to talk about. But I think it's a nice idea, and I like that they're trying out new things rather than just kind of going, "Oh well, people want portraits, let's do portraits." You know?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I'm looking at the little video showing it. It's pretty clever because it's probably a
Yeah.
lot less work than a portrait, just a camera change.
Yeah, and it's quite nice because it's like they're not going. So that people's complaints was, "Oh, we want this," right? But
Uh-huh.
actually, they didn't actually want portraits, right? They wanted more expressions. And so I like when people go, well, let's take what they're actually complaining about or what they actually don't like rather than what they're complaining about and fix that rather than just doing what people are asking for. So
Yeah,
I think that's quite cool.
yeah, I agree. Um, yeah, good stuff. I haven't played Pioneer Town yet. I gave it to my little brother though. He's actually big into farming games as well. And he's
Nice.
enjoying it. Um,
Does he listen to the podcast?
Not yet. I probably should. Yeah, I don't know. He's not a big podcaster. I don't know if that's an age thing or just him, but he's not big into podcasts yet. I need to get
It
him
might
on
be a
some
generational thing. I don't know.
I don't either. But
Got to get
but
on
yeah.
TikTok. TikTok
Where's the
farming.
harvest season pod TikTok?
I've been considering it. I'm just trying to think what it would actually be, right? Because not just going to do it for the sake of it. You have to actually have something good. Otherwise, you're just
Do
wasting your
you?
time.
Do you? I don't know. No
Yeah.
one's on TikTok. Um
Um.
okay.
Yeah. The other thing about Pioneers of Rolltown is the final DLC, Twilight Isle, is now out. That's the one that includes the new island with um the 4 characters from Trio of Towns. So uh, there we go. All the DLC is out, and we have a lot of updates now. So if you, listener, tried out the game at the beginning and didn't like it, or it's been a while since you played it, or you've just kind of gone, oh, I might buy it at some point, just now is a good time to buy it because you have all the DLC ready and loads of issues that were there at the beginning have been fixed now. It's a much smoother experience. So it's a good time to jump in.
Yeah. Sounds good. Yeah, good on them.
Yeah, it's good that they're continuing to do it. They've not just kind of done a couple of things and then abandoned it. We're like, what,
Yeah.
6 months after release now? So 5 months after
Is that how
release?
far we're at? Oh, we're at? Okay.
Yeah,
That's
it was
pretty good.
March. It was March.
Okay. That's pretty good. I wonder how well it sold because I would guess this was all planned from the outset. Now the question is if they'll keep doing more for it if it sold well enough.
Um, I don't think all of this was. The DLC obviously was, and I'm sure some of the stuff was planned. But I think stuff like the chat camera was completely because of people's feedback. I don't think
For
it
sure.
would have done it otherwise.
For sure. That is true. But
I can't see easy um, sales numbers, so I'll need to look at that
well,
later. But
Anyway, go by Pioneer Town, or in my case, take it from my little brother and try it myself. I really should. I like the original Harvest Moon games that became Story of Seasons. I don't know why I haven't picked it up in a minute, but I've only heard good things pretty much.
Turnip Boy. Turnip Boy's got an update. You can get on a train.
Turnip again. This also falls in the category of games I haven't played, but my brother has, and oh man, Turnip Boy is something special. Just
It's
the
good fun.
most chaotic neutral I've seen. Very cool. I didn't expect an expansion like this, to be honest, from a little game like that. But good on them.
I saw it coming because they'd mentioned something about designing a new character. And I'm like, well, kind of character needs to kind of come in the game. Anyway, so there's a train, and the conductor is Mayor Onion's brother.
Of course.
Conductor Onion, I think his name.
I'm excited to see what existential horrors await on that train,
Yeah, exciting.
or what crimes and larcenies will be committed.
Speaking of things that are out now, Stories of Mara, episode 1 is now out on Steam and itch.io for free. So this is a visual novel following the story of Akaji after the story of Summer and Mara. So if you want more of that, you can go get it. Link will be in the show notes.
Pretty interesting that they went for a visual novel. I mean, I guess it makes sense, but I don't know. Just
Yeah, I think they wanted to give more to people while they were building more complicated games, and they felt they could do a visual novel while also working on other games, to give people more story, which
that's
is
pretty
cool.
smart. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's pretty smart. I'm looking at it right now. It looks like a good visual novel. Good art.
it does. It does.
Yeah.
The one thing they've always been good at is art. Their artwork is always top notch. And I feel like a visual novel, if you're good at art and you're good at story, which I think they are, I feel like a visual novel is easy for you to do,
Yeah.
because there's nothing overly
Nothing.
complicated.
Yep, that's kind of it. Art and story.
Yeah,
um, good on them. Keep that brand alive.
yeah. So episode 1 is free and out now.
Do you think they're gonna
Also, they
charge for
have.
others?
I think they probably will. The way they've worded it is episode
Uh-huh.
1 is free. Um, and they were talking about keys for stories in Mara, so I suspect
Uh,
future ones might cost money.
so they're whetting your
Cost money?
appetite. Give you that
Yeah,
first hit for free. Gotta get you
first
hooked.
one's free. So
All
we'll
right.
see what comes out of it, but certainly not going to complain about the first one being free, even if the future ones aren't. They have also now published Summer in Mara in Japan. So if you that's not a sequel, Summer in Mara in Japan. They have published Summer in Mara.
Oh,
They have
that's
published that in the country of Japan. So if
the
you're in
entirety.
Japan and you wanted to play this, you can now get it.
The entirety of
Huzzah.
Mara has been moved to Japan for a new sequel. Okay. But hey, good. Hey, that's pretty big though. Like making it all the way out to international Japan like that. That's good. Good on them.
Yeah. Esports with Stardew Valley.
Now we're talking. All right.
Concerned Ape has launched the Stardew Valley Cup with a $40,000 prize for the winner.
Okay.
So there we go. Sadly,
So,
if you're just hearing about this now, you can't enter. They've already got the teams.
but
So it's a
on the
bit late.
plus side, here we are, pleased to announce the Harvest Season esports team competing for the $40,000.
Oh man, I don't know whether I could deal with the stress of that.
How did I mean, it's goofy to think you can give a farming game a esports element, but it makes sense.
I love it.
Like, oh yeah, it's great. And the presentation's pretty good. Just like, they're really leaning into the competition.
Yeah.
It should be fun. I'm excited
The
to see how well it does.
the event is on the 4th of September, which if you're listening to this before the 4th of September, that's on Saturday. This releases on Wednesday, the 1st of September. So 2021. Obviously, if you're
Tune
listening to this
in.
in a future year, tough.
Tune in for Al's live coverage of the esports competition, commentating,
Oh no,
personally
don't do that,
invited.
man.
Are
Don't do
you
that.
saying are you saying don't do that because I'm letting the listener down, or because I'm incentivizing you to do it?
Well, I don't think I can. I think I'm actually in the cinema when that goes live. Yeah, 9 a.m. Pacific time is 5 p.m. my time, and I'm going to the cinema then. So literally can't. Rip.
But we will cover it probably. Well, not me, maybe, but I'm sure I will talk about it after the
I'm
result.
sure I'll talk about it afterwards. Yeah, yeah.
All right.
The creator of Littlewood, Sean Young, has teased Monster Farm. So we've discussed the fact that he's making a creature capture game and has posted a screenshot of a bunch of the characters, and the tagline is Monster Farm. Now, I think this is the first time he's mentioned the word farm. So I'm wondering whether this is a creature capture farming game crossover game rather than just creature capture, which sounds good. And I'm looking forward to whatever it is, even if it isn't farming, because I love the art style. It's basically just Littlewood, but Pokemon. Uh,
Yeah, I was about to say that. I will like the standout thing. The tweet has little designs of little monsters. They're all really good. The art's pretty good, and
yeah,
the designs are great. Literally, they look like quality, not Pokemon.
yeah.
Which is probably the best you can hope for in that space. But I'm sorry, it's tough. It's tough. Monster Farm though, little on the generic side name there, but it's good.
I suspect it won't be the final name, especially because I'm pretty sure the Japanese name for Monster Rancher is Monster Farm. So
Oh,
that'll
yeah.
be fun.
Well, oh man, that's double bad for him. Monster Rancher just came back, just got announced on the
Yeah,
Switch.
yeah.
And
Good
this
timing.
ain't it.
Or maybe this is what has been announced on Switch and you just didn't realize it.
This is the a 2D portion being added to Monster Rancher in collaboration with the Littlewood dude. But yeah, no, I'm down for this. It looks good. Just this one screenshot, pictures worth 1,000 words or whatever. It's pretty good. Um,
Yeah.
should be fun. I hope it's fun.
The lemon cake developer, Elish, has uh, given more information on their upcoming game, The Ranch of Rivershine. This is a game where you have a horse ranch and you're breeding horses and then training them and competing in them. Competing in competitions with them. Coming soon on Steam.
Yeah,
There's a Steam link. You can add it on your wish list. No
I'm
release
looking
date
at
yet, but coming soon.
I'm looking at it. That's a pretty good game. I forget. Are they working on this solo? Isn't Lemon Cake was that an
Yeah.
individual project?
Yep. It's a solo game.
Cause is this solo too? Cause this is pretty impressive for a solo.
It is. It looks really
Um,
good.
yeah, it does. It's like, do you like Breath of the Wild horse riding and relaxing music and Nintendogs? Cause that's what we're getting here. Dress up your horse, wash them.
Single-handedly making a better game than BB and Tina.
That depends on what you want out of BB and
No, it
Tina.
doesn't. No, it doesn't.
uh, um,
Fun.
um, but yeah, no, this looks great. I don't know if this is trailer music, but it's just super relaxing just to look at. I
Yeah.
feel the stress decreasing. That's good. Good on what's the developer's name? Eloise. Yeah, good on them.
Puma are making Animal Crossing shoes.
Not
And
in game.
well, we don't know it's not in game as well. I don't think they've said anything about that.
At the
Like, it's
time
all
of
very
recording,
weird.
not
It's
in
all very
game.
weird because we got a tweet from Puma with an image of Puma, the Puma logo, and then the Animal Crossing's logo. Animal Crossing's logo? Animal Crossing logo. Oh my word. Words.
Wait,
The
but
Animal Crossing.
did you not see the product?
Let me finish.
Oh,
Let me
okay, sorry.
finish. So they tweeted that, and then Nintendo of America retweeted that and said something new is on the horizon. Neither of these accounts then actually tweeted the products, right? Neither of the Twitter accounts did.
You're super right. I didn't pay attention to that.
The products have been tweeted, but by some random other fan
Account?
Twitter account, and I don't know where they got them. I don't know whether this is real, or whether like this is them assuming, because I don't know where they're getting this information from.
I mean, but these are like real products, and I
Are you sure?
yeah. Don't do this to me, yeah.
I don't know. I don't have anything other than this random tweet from this random fan site.
All right, wait. I'm going to the internet. See if we have any. Do we have nothing else? Wow,
Every
that's
and every other every article on it is quoting this tweet.
you're super right. That's so bizarre. What a twist.
Now,
Wait, as
maybe this
I'm
maybe this
seeing
fan site actually have been given this information by Puma themselves. I don't know.
seeing the podcast, but I'm seeing others. So, oh man, I clicked on one link and it led me to a different website. Oh, this is a rabbit hole. But they look so like professional. They have sneakers, a hoodie, a shirt.
I'm not saying they're fake. I'm not saying they're
Yeah,
fake. I'm saying I don't know where there's no official source of.
yeah,
That's all I'm
you're
saying.
you're right. This is so bizarre. Well, I mean
It looks like there
it's
is another
real.
site that posted the shoes, sneakerfreaker.com, and they said we've got a first look at the special edition Wild Rider, but they only have the shoes and the one of the hoodies. Not all of the other stuff that was in that tweet. So I'm not saying it's not real. I'm just a bit confused. That's all.
Yeah, no, you're right. That is odd. Well,
Like
I
neither
putting
Nintendo nor Puma have actually said what it is. It's just
putting
fan sites that have.
that aside, what do you think of the product?
I mean, they're not kind of my style. I mean, maybe the hoodie's quite nice. I would possibly consider getting the hoodie. I'm not sure. That's not my kind of shoe, and I'm not really sure I'm going to buy a t-shirt. But
Yeah.
I couldn't be convinced of a hoodie.
Yeah. I mean, like, I don't think I'm that into them either. The hoodie's quite nice because it has like little character faces on the back in black and white. But I think they're all right designs. Yeah. I don't know. It's interesting they got Puma to do this. Nintendo's really going all out with the cross promotion and merch for Animal Crossing.
Yeah, I think Puma did Tetris stuff as well. So they have known history of video game collaboration.
Well, yeah.
Oh, and some
I
Mario
have to
stuff as
look at
well.
that. I need to look. I remember the Mario. I do remember Mario. Didn't see Tetris. I'll need to check that out. That sounds pretty cool. All right. Okay. Well, that I guess it'll be interesting to see when we actually hear,
Yep.
official word about this
Next, we have
collaboration.
two new announced games ish. I don't know whether I'm just new to them or whether they're new, whatever. The first one is called Spirit of the Island. This is currently live on Kickstarter. Link will be in the show notes. It is a colorful life simulation RPG set on a tropical paradise. Farm, craft, and build. You can attract tourists to your island, and there's a museum and story, etc., etc. You know the drill. It's like most things. It's a cross between Animal Crossing and Stardew Valley or Harvest Moon. You know what. Go look at it if you think it looks good. I think the crops look amazing. They're quite cool. The building looks fun. The tourist is an interesting addition. It's kind of almost SimCity, not SimCity-esque. Like, what are those ones where like Roller Coaster Tycoon
Roller
and stuff
Coaster
like that, where
Tycoon.
you've got a
Yeah.
bunch of
Yeah. They
stuff like
do
that,
look.
which looks
They
interesting.
Yeah. They do look like Roller Coaster Tycoon little dudes when they're visiting like a stand and running around. Um, the art style's okay enough. It's
It
like
doesn't blow me
almost
away, but it's cute.
it stands all right. It looks closest to Animal Crossing, a little toy-like. It's with people instead of animals.
Yeah,
But yeah, we'll see. It's weird how this is like a niche genre or whatever you want to call it, but it still feels so competitive just because the big
yeah,
names are so dominant, you know?
yeah. Yeah.
But good on them. Hopefully the little tourist thing makes it interesting. If it is a little roller coaster tycoon element to it, that might be fun. That would be cool.
Yeah. They are coming to PC early access in Q3 this year, which is what now? August, September, October, November, December. No, we're already halfway through Q3. So
Doesn't business quarters run differently from like the calendar year? Or I don't know if that's referring to
I,
the calendar
I
year
don't
or the business quarters.
I
Well,
don't know.
regardless, coming out in the near soon future, maybe.
um, and there is a stretch goal for console releases. I don't know whether they'll get there because they've not even hit their goal yet, and they've only got 10 days to go. So don't back it based on getting that. If you wouldn't play it on PC, don't get it because you'd be annoyed. The other thing I'm finding interesting is that most of the most of the tiers don't include support for the consoles. The cheapest one I can see, well, the cheapest one for getting it on PC is $20, and the cheapest one I can see for getting it on the consoles is $75, which is
Big
a
jump.
lot of money. It looks like there was one that allowed you to get a digital copy on consoles for $45, but that was time limited. I don't know why that one was time limited. It's not an early bird one.
Okay.
It's just
Well,
because you can get that version without the console still. You just can't get it for console. So I'm not really sure what is happening there.
I don't
It's
know,
a bit weird.
but they gotta hustle. They don't have much time. Just gotta hit that goal.
Yeah, and the
First things
consoles
first.
port is like six stretch goals in or something. I don't think they'll get there.
Well, I hope they find it. Is
Yeah.
I do like to see, even if it doesn't always make a big splash, having more entries in the arena is always good. Little
Yes.
competition,
Yes.
innovation. They have a chicken fountain. It's a big fountain like a chicken spitting water.
The
Check
important thing.
check it out for that. Check it out for that.
The final release is currently scheduled for April 2022, so I'm sure we'll get it by April
All right.
2023. I always add on a year to these things now.
Huh. It's so generous.
Like
I see.
it's just it literally always happens.
Oh yeah.
I mean, at least by like 6 months. I don't think I've had a single Kickstarter game that hasn't been at least 6 months late, which is
It's
fine. Like I'm not angry. It's just you just gotta assume that's gonna happen.
yeah, no, exactly. Oh well.
Um,
Well, let's hope we see Spirit of the Island soon. Their chicken fountain and all.
yeah, yeah. I'm currently waiting on one, two,
Did you back it?
three games. Three. Which one? This one?
Yeah.
No,
Okay.
I haven't backed it yet. I might. It's on my list of maybe. But I'm currently waiting on three games that were meant to come out in March of this year and still aren't out. So that game's.
Yeah. All right.
The other game is Grow, Song of the Evertree. And this game has a dreadful website and I hate it. Everything is side scrolling and it just messes with my brain. They say grow your own worlds and nurture a deep natural collection. Grow your own worlds and nurture a deep natural connection with everything they hold.
You
They
weren't
say
wrong
it
the
is a
first time.
sandbox game and there's not a huge amount more information. They've got a whole bunch of art on the site and there's like a bunch of lore, but you're trying to protect the Evertree, and yeah, it looks interesting, but I've not got any real information. It's meant to come to PC and all the consoles, all major consoles, but there's not a huge amount other than that. There's kind of some vague images is basically all it is at this point, but it looks like farming will be a big aspect of that game.
There's a little video too.
Oh, I missed that.
Yeah, I don't. I looked at it. It's from the tweet, or here. I'll send you the link real quick. No, they got
It's
it
on the
in.
website. Yeah,
Okay,
I've got it. It's mostly concept stuff in that. I don't think there's much in terms of
probably.
how the actual game works.
Well, I'm seeing
Um,
some gameplay. So I don't know how concrete it's gonna be, but they're like place your buildings and decorate it, choose the colors and stuff
maybe
like
we're looking
that.
at a different video.
Here, it's from it's from 505 Games. Here, let me link you the video real
Oh,
quick.
it's on Steam apparently already, so you can go wishlist it on Steam. No link from the website though.
If they don't have this video, maybe it is a really bad website.
Yeah, this wasn't on their website. this
Yeah.
video.
Oh, yeah, because it
Yeah, I'm not
seems.
sure whether that's actual gameplay. It does kind of seem like mostly like kind of work in progress stuff.
Says beta with the asterisk at the bottom.
They're planning to release in this year. Uh,
Mm,
we'll see what happens. It looks
well,
interesting. I might buy it.
as of,
I'd like it
I'm
on
gonna make.
Switch, but
Here's a very very niche comment for like one person maybe out there who hears this. Have you ever heard of a board game called Everdell?
no.
Okay. Uh, I bring it up because it has a thing called the Evertree in it, and Everdell is a very cute like Lord. Are you familiar with Redwall, the book series?
No.
Well, it
Sorry.
basically you're playing with little animals instead, like little forest animals, mice, beavers, and stuff like that. And I was just very excited because I thought that was gonna be like this because they said Evertree, but I was wrong. Anyways, so go look for Grow Song of the Evertree somewhere on the show notes. Look there on the right here on the harvest season. You can see what it's all about. The beta. This is one of those things where I think the beta looks ambitious. It looks nice, but I think it's too ambitious. But I could be
Yeah.
wrong. We'll see if they release
Well,
soon. Maybe.
we will see what happens. So that is all the news. We are now going to talk about Sakuna. Kevin, talk to me about
Sakuna
Sakuna.
of Rice and Ruin, which is I think it's a cool subtitle. All right. So
Yeah,
Sakuna.
although I keep reading it as of Rice and Rain,
Well,
which I know it isn't, but
there
that's
is
what my
rain in the
brain
game.
does. Although it does rain, and that
It-
confuses me.
Rain in a farming game confuses you. Okay.
No, 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 no,
Oh.
no, no. Not the act of rain happening,
Oh,
but
the
it
the
mucks
the,
up the
the title.
farming.
Okay. Well,
Well, not also in the title, but it mucks up the farming, right? It changes how you do things.
it does. Yes. All right. So let's all right. Let's start with an elevator pitch for people who haven't heard of Sakuna of Rice and Ruin. You play as titular character Sakuna. She is a goddess, the daughter of a harvest goddess and a war god. And true to the name, you are banished to a ruined island where you have to survive and kind of build it up, and you do that by growing rice. Um,
Rice.
this is a farming well, true to Sakuna's nature, it's like a 50-50 on gameplay where one half of it is rice farming, only rice, it's the only crop, and it's very in-depth. And then there's also a lot of little platforming side-scrolling levels where you go through and battle a bunch of little monsters and fight through to
Yeah.
uh so that's the gist of it. This what consoles is it on? It is on Switch. That was the big release. It's on Steam, I believe.
Yeah, I think it's on PlayStation as well.
Yeah, I think it got
Uh,
other releases later. It's done, I think, fairly well.
yeah, it's on PS4.
Yeah, well, yeah. So, all right. I guess let's start with initial impressions. What do you think of it, Al?
I don't like this game. I guess I'll go in a bit more detail, right? So, I think I don't like the detail in it. And I think that it's incredible, right? The detail is absolutely incredible with the farming, and we'll get into exactly what that means in a bit, I'm sure. But it's not fun to me. I totally get why some people might find it fun because of the really detailed aspect to it. But to me, it feels a lot like Farming Simulator, where I'm going, I don't actually want something realistic, right? I
Yeah.
want something stupid, and I don't want to think about it. I think this game makes me think too much, and that's not what I'm looking for in a farming game. And the combat is fine. I don't have an issue with the combat in and of itself. It feels jarring because it's so different to the rest of the game. So the rest of the game, you're walking around in this 3D world, and then suddenly you're in a 2D side-scrolling combat,
Mm-hmm.
and it just messes with my brain, that switch. And those two things, plus a bunch of other things that I'm not a huge fan of, which I think even if I enjoyed the game, I'd really not like, just lead to me not really finding it fun. It's. I'm not saying it's a bad game. I think it's just not for me, this one. Like, I totally get if you enjoy this game, and if you like what you're going to hear now from Kevin on it, then I would highly recommend it. But it's not for me. What about you?
That's I think that's a super fair assessment. And I think you're right. This is probably just down to personal preference. I adore this game. I love it. I haven't beaten it yet. It's actually quite a lengthy game, surprisingly. Um, but yeah, no, the rice, the farming is detailed, and you have to plan and schedule and keep all these factors in mind. And I love that. I get excited. I'm like, ooh, I gotta plan this out. I gotta strategize, gotta keep things going like clockwork. I love it. And you're right about the combat. It is jarring how to switch from that micromanaging farming, looking at figures and numbers and things, to this little mini side platforming battle system. I enjoy it. Like I said, it's nothing. It's good. It's definitely good. It's not like the most impressive, but I enjoy the battling portions. And I don't know. And one of the big things about the game for me is the visual presentation. It has a probably Wind Waker-esque art style is the best way to describe it for people listening.
Yeah, I mean it's less cartoony,
It
but I
is a
think
little less
the
cartoony.
the
It's
style, I think the kind of drawing style of it, I
yeah.
absolutely, but it feels it's more kind of toned down colors and stuff like that.
Yes. It's the game takes place in not Japan, I would call it. Um and it's very much stylized in that ancient Japanese
Yeah,
like scroll sort of thing, like Okami. People might know that one. That's probably a better comparison. It's that same sort of style. It's 3D. Well, it is 3D. There's portions that are 2D gameplay, but it is a 3D. Everything's 3D models and whatnot.
yeah.
And the music
I
is gorgeous.
I'll give you that.
Just
It's definitely very, very good, very good. And I think this game is really nice to look at. I absolutely
yes.
will agree with that. Um, I do find it funny when we talk about 3D versus 2D games, right? Because, like, I've always considered the 3D or 2D to be the gameplay rather than technically how it's implemented, right? So if
Mhm.
we talk about, for example, uh, the new Pokemon games coming out, not
Yeah.
Legends, the remakes, right?
Yeah.
They to me are 2D games because you're playing in two dimensions. You're not playing in a third dimension. But technically they're 3D games
Yeah.
because it's all 3D models built up. But to me, I feel like we should call them 2D games because you're playing in a 2D world. You know, it
Yeah.
just
No,
it's
you're
weird
not
to me.
wrong. I think that's a common sentiment, and I don't blame you at all. I would call it this. I would probably agree with you. I just said it just to describe to the viewers,
Yeah,
to
yeah,
make
no,
it
definitely.
clear,
I
because
yeah,
the 2D platforming parts, like I said, it is 2D in terms of gameplay. You can only go up, down, left, right, or diagonals, but no quote forward
yeah,
or backward in terms of the like towards the viewer. But you can see there's a background. There's moments where the camera will rotate for little scenes or whatever. But
yeah.
uh, but yeah, no. Um, so let's get into the nitty gritty here. Let's, I guess, since we're a farming podcast, let's do our due diligence and talk about the farming.
Let's do
Um,
it.
because oh
Rice.
boy, this may
There's
be the
rice.
most in-depth farm. Yes, rice. Yes, the most in-depth farming game discussed on this podcast, I think.
Oh, definitely. At least until we do Farming Simulator.
Yeah. uh, one day. Yeah, this is Al dipping his toe, prepping, warming up for farming simulator. Because there is only one crop, rice, as is in the title.
Yeah,
And so you only have to manage one field, essentially, a little plot of land. To make up for that, it is in depth. So the game operates with 4 seasons, the traditional farming cycle, 4 seasons. Each season is only 3 days, so it actually can go by quickly, and a day is like 10 to 15 minutes.
yeah.
Um,
Really, really short.
yeah. So it is kind of nice in that sense because it's easy to do if you get into the game. It's easy to say, oh, I'm just going to play a day or two and then
Yeah,
just hop off. So that's nice. It's very segmented.
Yeah,
And
I'd agree. That's a huge plus to me. I think
yeah,
you know, I don't have an issue with games that have longer seasons, and I think that
uh-huh,
works well for like a normal farming game.
yeah,
But yeah, having one crop, I definitely get why it could be annoying having long seasons.
uh-huh,
And being able to go, yeah, oh, I'll play a season tonight, right?
yeah,
45 minutes done, you've done a season, right? Like
yep,
that's really good.
yeah,
I like that.
yeah. I definitely agree with that. It's very bite-sized to play. It's very easy to do. And if let's say you maybe screwed something up and have a save file, you can go back and say, "Oh, I only lost 20 minutes or so," and you can fix your mistake. But that comes up because you have to manage every step of this farming process, from preparing the field to seeds to every step in between to harvesting and actually processing the rice. I mean, I wasn't familiar with rice, the details of rice farming before this, and now I have a good idea. There's a lot. The actual farming, you plant your seeds and you have to like manually plant them, uh, in a 3D world, not just 2D tiles like Stardew Valley style. You plot them in a little dirt and you take them out of your backpack. That's one of the things about this game's farming system, because it's just focused on the one crop and the individual steps. It breaks down like every mini process. You push a button to
Yeah.
take out your seeds. You push a button to push them in the dirt, etc. And there are a lot of factors after you plant them. Like you have to change the water level. You have to monitor the temperature, the weather, and all sorts of things to keep track of. There's
Yeah, I
even
would say that
crop sicknesses. Yeah, go ahead.
one thing about this game is that if you are the sort of person who goes, "Oh, that's a lot of that's a lot of words. I'll read it later," you're never going to do well in this game.
Oh yeah,
Um, you need to pay attention to what they're saying because they're going to say it. And honestly, I'm sure there's a way to get that information again. But the
uh,
problem is they told you how to do that, and I didn't read that. So, so
well,
I I kept forgetting what things were meant to be and how to actually find out that information. So I guess that's another thing is it's just there's so much information
yeah,
just kind of splatted at you. And it's done in a kind of conversational way because we'll get onto it later, but like you're with a bunch of other people who
mm,
give you this information. Um,
yes,
but it's still just text, right? And it's
yeah,
still like if my brain's not going to take in a wall of text, my brain's not going to take in a wall of text, no matter how it's presented to me.
yeah.
And I guess
No,
that's the problem is that with such a detailed game, you're always going to end up with that wall of text. And I
mhm.
just don't, you know, I'm always going to
I
struggle with that.
I agree with. Actually, I'm going to agree with you here. I think my biggest complaint of the game is related to the farming stuff. Like you said, they throw a lot at you at the beginning. Because all the things I talked about, all these little factors and different elements to the farming, they are they're all present from the beginning, but it's not
Yeah.
always clear from the beginning. Some stuff you don't even unlock until the second or third year, or whatever. So that might not have been you out. You just might not have even been presented with it yet.
Yeah.
And it kind of makes you feel a little bit it can make somebody feel bad because at the end of the year you get a little report on your farming. So like the first year when you get that report, you get all these stats and numbers and stuff like that, and it's for stuff that I didn't even know was a thing. It's like, what is that? What am I being graded on?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it does feel a little overwhelming.
It does. It feels like it's attacking you, right? Because the first
A little
time
bit.
first time you put down the rice seeds,
Yeah.
I don't think it makes it clear that they kind of has to be in a specific way. Maybe I
Uh-huh.
missed that. I don't know. And I went and
No.
spent like 5 minutes putting them all out, and then it was like,
Yeah.
they're too close together, and I'm like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
What? I
No, no, no.
don't.
That
Oh.
that's not you.
Ugh.
That's just the way the game is formatted at the beginning.
It's like
And
shouting at me for not being good at farming. Great, that's what I want from a farming game.
yep, exactly. And like I'm, we're bringing up all these complaints, but the thing is, if you stick with the game, There's actually a lot of upgrades and unlocks to your both combat and farming abilities, but the farming abilities in particular, they're useful because, like for instance, the seed stuff. Yeah, when the first time you plant your seeds, you don't know what you're doing. You're just putting seeds in the dirt, and then they still judge you on it. But then later on, you can unlock this little ability where you can see basically a grid in the ground, and then you can, oh, here's how you space the seeds. How you plant them, and then stuff like, oh, I can plant more seeds at once. Yada yada yada. And
Yeah,
it's that you get a lot of stuff like that for every step of the process.
yeah,
When you have to harvest rice, you cut it down. Eventually, you can do it faster. Processing the rice, you get different tools to kind of grind it up into actual rice and whatnot.
yeah.
Um, and
What?
also, you also unlock some of the information, which is kind of weird. You find these items, little scrolls hidden around the island and stuff like that, and that's where it goes into detail. Like, okay, here's how you manage water. Here's what you need to aim for. Here's how you plant stuff. Here's how the different factors give you different results, yeah, et cetera, et cetera. But it's just very odd that a lot of it is withheld from you from that first year or two.
Yeah.
Um, and
What one
like, mhm,
one thing I would say is that despite all this, there is, as far as I can see, and I don't know how it actually affects things. Maybe you've tried it. Is there is a difficulty setting of the farming, which I presume probably doesn't change your grading, but does allow you to like grow the rice when you're doing worse, presumably, so you can progress the story. I suspect.
probably. I haven't tried the settings actually. I haven't looked into that. But I imagine so that like you may because at the end of the year you actually get the rice that you grow and you can use it for cooking and different things. I imagine that in easier setting maybe it'll get you better rice or more rice despite, whatever factors would make it worse in a harder setting.
Yeah,
Um
exactly, exactly.
There is also, like we briefly mentioned, there are other characters in this little island with you. And you can assign some of the stuff to do to them if you want to skip. There is a few options. Not everything, but like they will plant. I think they can plant for you, or I don't know. There's a few steps you can skip. So there are little things to make it easier for you. But it's not always very clear. Like I said, that's my biggest complaint with the game, especially with the farming aspect. A lot of it isn't very clear, or you have to remember to talk to X person or whatever. But once, so despite all that, though, like I said, if you do stick with it, if you do enjoy it, I find it pretty satisfying. I just like the managing of a schedule and remember, oh, I got to do this by this point, and gotta just remember to fill the water, lower the water, check on this, check on that. If you like managing something like that, it's pretty satisfying once you get past that initial hump of not knowing what to do. Um, but
Yeah.
uh, but it can take a minute. It takes, like I said, at least a year to get some of that stuff. But let's talk about combat now. Let's switch gears here to the combat
Yes.
because that is the other half of the game. Um,
Yeah, so you mentioned it's 2D combat, 2D side-scrolling combat. It's quite nice actually in terms of like pure combat. I quite enjoyed this as I mentioned earlier.
mhm.
You can jump around and there's a couple of different attacks you can do, which is overall enjoyable to do. Like I don't, if this was a game in and of itself, I would probably have fun playing it.
Mhm.
Uh, my it just feels weird to me that it's in this game.
Yeah,
you know?
no, it definitely feels like a separate game on its own. And you're right, it's pretty enjoyable. The combat is at a face level, or initial first glance, it's fairly simple, but it can
Yeah,
get pretty in depth.
yeah,
Because you can unlock different moves and you can do different stuff. You can like throw enemies into each other. You can go around, launch them into the air, and do stuff in the air. And you have this little basically magic scarf. You can grab enemies and do stuff with them. And it feels very satisfying. It has a nice feel to it. And
yeah,
what's interesting is the combat is also can be tied just a little bit to the platforming. It's nothing super hard or crazy like a Mario game, but sometimes you'll see a little cliff that's just a little too high for you, and then eventually you unlock a
Oh yeah,
move
yeah.
that lets you jump up higher, and then you can get this little treasure chest there or whatever. Um,
Yeah, it's a nice, as you say, platforming
mhm.
combat game. Yeah, I like it. It's a pro.
Yeah. And
Just
just like the
weird.
farming, there is a lot of equipment and upgrades. Like we said, a lot of the moves you can upgrade. You wield a few different weapons, your actual like clothing that you wear and whatnot. And that can help you with some different obstacles. Sometimes you'll encounter like poison gas or you're underwater or like a little fire area or whatever. And yeah, you got and this is again, I think one of the issues with the clarity thing. Sometimes you're not presented with how to get over that poison or that fire right away, but you unlock it pretty soon after. Which is obviously a lot of games do that sort of thing like progression blockers,
Yeah.
but it's not always clear to you that you're gonna get that thing coming up. Sometimes you have to dig around through different menus, like just happen to see it in one of the equipment things that you can get. But once you get over those hurdles, it's enjoyable. The game, the combat stuff kind of has this interesting progression system, and it's really tied to the story in general, the whole game. It has like objectives at each little level, and the more objectives you clear, the farther you can go into the story. So sometimes you have to go back to these levels and redo. Well, not sometimes, frequently you do. And but what's nice is they're very short levels. You can again knock them out in 5, 10 minutes, something like that. So it's not too bad to get through that. It's just an interesting way to do it. As opposed to like say being tied to the years or the time or whatever. And actually, what one of the interesting things is how the farming and the combat kind of tie to each other.
Yeah.
Because so like I said, to progress through the story and sometimes unlock things for farming or other things like that, you have to progress through the combat levels and clear enough objectives. And then on the reverse side, when you complete a year of farming, your stats get a huge boost for your combat stuff, usually. A very, very noticeable boost. I recall actually towards the end of the first year, I reached one of the bigger bosses, the first earlier bosses in the game, and I was struggling with the boss. But then I completed my year of harvest, and then all of a sudden I just cleared that boss no problem because the stat boost that farming gives you, which is I think a very clever way of tying the two different side game elements together.
Yeah.
See here. I think that's a good gist of the combat side. Let's see what other mechanics. You put that you hate moving from one area to the other.
Yeah.
Do
Yeah,
tell.
so I
Do
want to
tell.
talk about the map. So like you're in an area, right? And you're running around and you move to like an exit which goes to another area. And
Uh-huh.
sometimes you go into one of the 2D combat areas and that's fine. That's kind of makes sense from where you are. Although it's still a little bit jarring because of that change.
Mhm.
And then sometimes you're moving between like large areas on the map and in that it it takes you to the map, right? So you can walk through the door of a cave and then suddenly you're on the map.
Mhm.
And I'm like, what am I doing here? I just walked through a cave,
Uh-huh.
right? And it's not just going, oh, you're moving to this area and then it pops you back into that area. It actually wants you to choose somewhere on the map to go. And I got really confused by this. Um,
Yeah.
I, and I don't understand what the thought process is behind this. Like if I'm walking to an area, maybe just take me to that area. Don't make me then select that area on the map after already walking to that area. Because you know what, funnily enough, I don't even know what area I've just walked to because it's a new area and you're now expecting me to select it on the map. It's really weird and confusing and I don't like it.
I I can see the issue with that. I definitely can understand because again, this is just going back to the issue of I think a lack of clarity here.
Yeah,
Um
definitely.
I
I,
I do like that those breaks because essentially how it kind of is. So like the first, let's say call it world for lack of a better way of saying it is like a series of forest levels, right? and then you clear one section, and then it goes to the next. It's kind of like a Mario game, really, where you have world 1,
Yeah.
1, 1, 2,
Yeah.
etc.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And yeah, the exits and entrances aren't always super clearly marked, and sometimes you just kind of abruptly exit a level, and then the next one unlocks or doesn't unlock because you need to clear more objectives. And that's probably the biggest thing where you could. I wish the game would guide you a little more. Like, okay, you reach the end of the level, but to unlock the next level, you need to clear X number of things or X objectives.
Yeah.
And that's not always super clear.
It's trying to be an exploration game, but not through true exploration, but
Uh-huh.
actually through achievements. But it doesn't make
Yes.
it clear what that is. And yeah, I think that's his biggest issue is not making clear what on earth you're meant to do.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And sometimes it can get, even for me who enjoys the game immensely, there were definitely times where I hit a wall and I got a little frustrated and looked up online what on earth I was supposed to do. Because it can get a little obtuse or obscure. But I do appreciate the breaking up of the levels though, because sometimes you want to run back to the farm to check on something or to hop to another level. I don't know, but I
Yeah, I
just
think
wish it was
I like the map overall, and I think I'm not saying get rid of the map, right?
hmm
Bringing up the map and being able to quick jump over back to your farm, great. I like that. That's good. Moving you onto the map when you move between areas, that I don't like. That's just weird to me.
Yeah. Yeah, no, yeah, I think it just if they made it clear, like, okay, here's your next target or here's the next objective you need to clear, I think that would have
Yeah, I mean,
resolved issues.
even if it was showing you the map to show where you've just walked to, so it would just like flash here and then take away the map. That's fine, right? If that's what they're trying to do, that's a much better way of doing it.
Yeah. No, that yeah, I definitely could see where there's room for improvement on that. I can agree with you. So let's talk about well, I guess there are a few other mechanics I want to talk about, but I think we need to address the story a little bit first because I think it's tied to that a little bit. So let's how
Yeah,
far did you
we're
get through the
not gonna.
game?
I don't think we're gonna get really deep into kind of spoilers and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So
no.
we're gonna get into
We can
some
talk about the
kind of
general.
early premise spoilers, I guess we'll call it,
Yeah.
right? So the premise is kind of not clear until you start playing the game fully.
Yeah.
So if you really care about anything, pause now and go play the first 10 minutes of the game.
Something like that.
But other than that, we're not going to spoil the end of the game. I mean, I couldn't
I,
if
I
I wanted to.
I haven't reached it either. We're gonna spoil the game without knowing what it is. Um,
I mean, I think
okay.
we can probably guess how it ends, but
I mean, yeah, it's not a super crazy
no,
rich
or deep.
JRPG story. So okay, as I mentioned, for the very premise, Sakuna is the daughter of a harvest goddess and a war god, right? And she lives in the Japanese deity realm. I think they call it the lofty realm. And she's kind of spoiled because she's kind of got this good blood in her, and
Kind of.
she's
She is absolutely spoiled. Spoiled
she's a
brat
brat.
completely.
Oh yeah, it's oh
Like
man, it's great.
she treats other gods and goddesses like slaves, right?
Oh
That's how
yeah,
spoiled she is.
she's abs. Oh man, she has the trope. She's the mean girl with the best friend who's super quiet and shy but supports her anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, that's talking at the beginning.
I I also had to check the voice actress in the English dub. I had to check that it wasn't because it sounded so much like what's her name? The the other main character in Wreck-It Ralph.
Penelope?
Yeah, I had to
Penelope?
check. It's not the
No, it's not
same voice
her.
actor, but I had to. It
No.
like sounds so much like her.
Yeah, Sakuna Laura Post, I think is the English voice actress who does a lot of other games.
Yeah,
Uh, that's one thing I didn't mention, but the voice acting in this game I think is personally phenomenal. They did a good cast. And yeah, they nail the bratty part of Sakuna really well, and the
yeah,
other
definitely.
characters. Um, Speaking of which, very early on, I think actually it's like the first thing in the game before you even do any actual gameplay. We meet the rest of our cast. Because the story happens with Sakuna just being rich and spoiled in the lofty realm, and then a bunch of humans happen to wander into the realm. A group of 5 people, I believe it is. And essentially, long story short, they accidentally caused some mayhem, and Sakuna is blamed for it, and they're all banished to the Isle of Demons, which is the setting where the game takes place, and that's where Sakuna, as punishment, has to restore this island, get rid of the demons, and while trying to fend for herself and survive, which is why they end up growing a little rice farm. So the other humans in play here, there is, let's say, Taweman, who is a samurai, but he's kind of a bumbling fellow, for lack of a better way of putting it. He's very knowledgeable, but very clumsy, let's say, right? He's a nice guy. He's the eldest of the group for sure, and kind of like the fatherish figure. There is Mirta. She's from not Europe, a missionary from not Europe to not Japan. She speaks in a Germanish accent and speaks in this kind of broken way of speaking. And then she's an adult woman, and then the other characters are all children, basically. There is Kinta, who's kind of a bratty snot. He's like a street kid, you know what I mean? Like little tough, raised on the streets, tough kid. There is Yui. She is a very quiet, calm girl, very, very reserved sort of girl. She's about Kinta's age. And then there is Kaimaru, who is like a baby, but a really, really big baby. He doesn't talk with
Literal baby.
words. He wears a diaper. But yeah, it's interesting. And they all have functions within the game as well. Talemon, the samurai dude, he's usually the knowledge base. You can usually ask him about rice and farming and things like that. He's usually the go-to if you don't know what you need to do. Mirta does the cooking system. There's a little cooking system in the game. You basically make a meal every day, and it gives you stat boosts or benefits for the next day. Kinta is your weapons guy. He forges weapons and tools. Yui is actually a very talented seamstress, and she makes all your equipment, your armor and clothing. And then, well, Kaimaru is just a baby, so he doesn't do much. They also, as part of, I know we're talking about farming, but I guess as kind of like survival resource gathering, you can also unlock these bits where you can send out all 5 of these basically to different points on the map, and they'll basically gather resources for you for either crafting or cooking and things like that. And then eventually later on throughout the game, you do meet some other characters and things like that, residents of the island and things like that. And then, but yeah, that's kind of the setup for the story. And as you go, you learn a bit of the history of kind of everyone, really. You learn about Sakuna's parents in death. You learn why on earth there's demons on this island, and even the humans. They have some actually surprising twists and interesting backstories. I was surprised at how much I got invested in their growth and stuff like that. And that is one of the nice things about the stories. Obviously, that's kind of the setup for Sakuna. A spoiled rich kid has to become a kind of a better person through hard work, and you do see that, and that's pretty nice to see. So yeah, I think that's. I don't like I said. I forget how far did you get. Al, I think I asked you this. I don't remember.
Not a huge amount.
Did you clear a year?
No.
No. Okay. Yeah. You haven't seen nothing yet. You haven't seen nothing.
Yeah, I really.
I don't blame
I think
you
the
though.
thing is, the story kind of got me a little bit. And if I'd enjoyed it a bit more, I probably would have played through just for that. But I was just not having fun with the gameplay at all.
I don't
You
blame
know.
you. This is yeah. Like yeah. That's one of the worst parts about this game. Again. So I think it's all based just on clarity. If they were just clear about what you need to do, how you need to do it from the very beginning, it would be great.
Yeah.
Because I agree that first year is very rough, and it's gonna be a turnoff for a lot of people, I think.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if you can
Definitely.
get past that, there is a lot, like I said, the gameplay elements, the farming gets a lot better and easier. The combat system gets pretty interesting. And the story, like I haven't completed yet, but it goes to a few interesting places. I mean, like you said, it's not too in depth, not some rich novel here, but it's interesting to see the characters, what their history was, why they have all these kind of weird quirks and backstories. And yeah, there's just a lot to enjoy if you can get over that initial hump.
Yeah, yeah. I think I agree. I think if you can get through that, and if you actually actively enjoy it after an hour of playing, I think it's going to be a great game, and you're going to really love it. But if you struggle with the core mechanics,
or just
you're going to really struggle with it.
it's a little hard. And it sucks because I don't know why they did that. I wonder. Sometimes I feel like game developers, and I don't know how accurate this is. Sometimes they try to make things harder to kind of tie in with the themes or the stories, right? Because it does feel like, okay, you were just dumped on this island and you're struggling to figure out what to do. It really does feel like that as you're
Yeah,
trying to farm and
yeah,
bumble your way. But
yeah. That's
it just
fair.
sucks because it's a huge turnoff for a lot of people. And
Exactly.
there's a lot more to enjoy. So it would be nice to see that. And what's interesting about Sakuna is this game. When did this game come out? A year or two ago? Um,
Yeah,
uh,
last year I think was the first release of it.
it's been on the horizon for a while. But at
Yeah,
least a year, right?
November 2020.
Well, ever since then though, they have supported this game. I just got an update like 2 weeks ago, something like that. Um,
Nice.
it's crazy. So it's nice to see them supporting, and they do little quality of life things. They haven't addressed a lot of the big stuff we've talked about, but I don't know, I think the game is doing kind of well. And I just hope to see more from this team at least because this is great. And I know I like the character Sakuna herself. You're playing as her the whole time. I grew attached to her. She's, like I say, great art, and she's got a great fun voice. And fun character. I just really like this game. Yeah, I think I think that's all I've got to say on it without, going too in depth and spoiling some stuff.
One thing I would say is this game was apparently developed by two people.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Wow.
two people. So
Wow.
that's pretty impressive.
Was there a Kickstarter? Because that's
Oh, there was it. They started out with two people, but by the end there were 10 people. Okay,
okay.
never
Okay.
mind.
Okay, I was about to say because that's impressive.
Yeah, I was going to say that's insane.
Well,
It's quite a game
regardless,
for
yeah,
that. It's still pretty
and
good.
yeah, one thing I mentioned briefly earlier, the game is surprisingly long because I didn't know it was two people, but I knew it was a small team. It's definitely an indie game, a quality indie game, but you can feel it. And but it's I put in a good number of hours, and there's still more to go. It goes longer
Yeah,
than I would have expected as someone who enjoyed it.
yeah.
Um,
One interesting thing is their target for sales was 30,000, and they have sold over 1 million copies.
hey, good on them.
So yeah,
Yeah, I
pretty
think they
impressive.
did. Yeah, that's really good. I remember they were at E3. I think being on the Switch helped a lot. They were on E3. I don't know if Nintendo helped them because they actually released a special like collector's edition or whatever. Um,
Yeah.
and I actually got that one. It's quite nice. You get an art book with all that gorgeous art. But good on them. I'm glad they did well. I can't wait to see more. I haven't, like I said, I haven't reached the end of the game yet, but I could. There's probably room for a sequel somewhere. Sakuna's a fun character. She can do
They've
other
said that they've
stuff.
said they want to do that.
All right, that's awesome. I'm glad. I'm down for Sakuna. I don't think it's blown up quite like other indie games, but I wish it did because I think Sakuna
I mean,
does.
1 million copies is a lot of
It
copies,
is
you
a
know?
lot.
Like
I mean,
I know we kind of look at these things and I think that quite often things like Pokemon can make your eyes go glaze over, right? Because, when they sell, tens of millions,
yeah.
right? But 1 million is a
Well,
lot of copies to sell.
you're not wrong, but it's like, I mean, because around the time I was playing Sakuna, I was also picked up Hades. Um, and that's a
Yeah.
game that a lot of talk. And I just wonder if a lot of people, and I could see it, a lot of people dropped off Suck and they bought it, but they didn't stick with it just because they couldn't get over that initial hill. I don't know.
I mean, that's
Um,
possible. That's possible. Um,
but hey,
I
if
mean,
we
it
get a
looks like they've sold roughly the same number of Hades as Hades.
really,
I mean, to
now
give you an
that blows
idea,
my mind.
right? The joint 49th best-selling games of all time. So there are 48 games that sold more than The Last of Us and Grand Theft Auto Vice City. They're tied for 49th. They've both sold 20 million. So like there are only 50 games, well, okay, there's a few extra ones in there that are tied, but there's roughly only 50 games that have sold 20 million copies and over, right? So
Okay.
selling a million
No,
is
yeah,
pretty
I'm not.
good.
Yeah, no, I definitely recognize. Like I said, I just don't hear people talking about it. Even here in our little circle of the harvest season, where
Yeah,
we are
that's fair.
biased towards farming games. I forced you to play it. I don't. I think Micah played it briefly, but I haven't heard anyone else talking about Sakuna, and I love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I guess it's impressive it sold so many with less of that.
Yeah,
So yeah.
that's the thing that I'm just surprised by. Like, hey, good on them. I'm happy they sold that much, but just I
Yeah.
don't know. But hey, if we get a sequel, I'm sure they're listening to this podcast right now with all this important feedback, and we'll address these features in the future.
Yeah, yeah. And well, I don't think a lot of what I've said is stuff that actually they need to change. I think it's just this isn't my kind of game. Like, don't change the core fundamentals of the game to
Yeah,
make me want to play it. That's not how this has
yeah,
worked. Some
yeah.
of the things definitely changed on the maps in the map issues,
I agree. Just a
and the information definitely changed
yeah,
them for future games. But
yeah.
don't go changing the core fundamentals just because I didn't like it.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's very true. Yeah, well, uh, it's a good game. Like it might not be for everyone, but it's a good. There is a great game under here.
I would not argue with you there. I
Yeah,
think it is a good game. I just didn't
yeah,
like it.
yeah.
And
Oh,
that's
that's super
fine.
fair.
That's fine.
Just listener, if nothing else, just Google images Sakuna of Rice and Ruin and just look at that art and be happy. If nothing else, just look at that art and let it warm your heart just a little. All those colors, those designs. Okay. But I think that'll do it. I think we've
Yeah.
conquered Sakuna of Rice and Ruin. Or of Rain if you're Al.
Thank you, Kevin, for joining me to talk about
Thank you,
Sakuna.
Al, for giving in and playing
Uh,
Sakuna and me on.
Now I can stop having you complain at me that I've not played it yet. Uh,
Until the sequel comes out. Ah.
where can people find you on the internet if they want to hear more from you?
Oh, that's right. Okay, my personal Twitter is @KoopaPrez. It's mostly retweets of funny or important things to have to be said. But if you want something more slightly interesting, I do have an art Twitter @Spriter Squared, where I make pixel art. I actually was working on one for Sakuna, but haven't finished it yet. But I've actually picked up Steam recently and have been making a handful of pixel art things, so I'm active again. And now is a good time to get on that, people. But yeah, that's it. So again, that's @Spriter Squared for the art Twitter for the cool stuff. What about you, Al? Where can people find you and more information about this wonderful podcast?
You can follow me on Twitter personally at the ScottBot. Scott has one T. There's a lot of stuff there. If you like it, you like it. You can follow the podcast on Twitter at THSPod. Get news about the podcast and retweets of basically far too many things in farming. Look, if you want farming game news up to date and timely, at most like 24 hours out of date, depends how often I check the Twitter. That's where you get that from. You can also email us if you want to give us any feedback that way. It's a good way to get your name said out in the podcast. You can find a contact form on our website, harvestseason.club. You can also find links to many things there, including a link to our Patreon if you want to give us money. And if you do, next episode of our Patreon exclusive podcast, The Greenhouse, We're going to be talking about Pokemon.
Pokemon? We like Pokemon here?
Pokemon. We've not recorded that one yet, so I don't know how long it's going to be. I'm a little bit worried how long it's going to be.
Yeah, this was the warm-up.
And you can also hear me talk about Pokemon on the most recent bonus episode for It's Super Effective, the Pokemon podcast.
We're going to repeat all of that, but just with me there and telling Al how he's wrong instead of someone else.
I think that's everything. Thank you again, Kevin, for joining me.
Thank you, Al. Thank you, listeners.
Thank you, listeners, for joining us. Stop stealing my lines.
Oh.
And until next time, have a good harvest.
Rice and rain, because it rains in the game. Goodbye.
The Harvest Season is created by Rochelle Delaney and Al McKinley, with support from our pro farmer level patrons, Kevin and Stuart. Our art is done by Micah the Brave, and our music is done by Nick Burgess. Feel free to visit our website, harvestseason.club, for show notes and links to things we discussed in this episode. Thanks for listening.
Kevin, just say the line.
A good harvest.
Why do I get you on the podcast?
That's the reaction I hope for. If you say that, I know I did my job. Yes.